but there are some specific things we want to know. So I'm going to move on to 1D, which is that the core strategy protects the number of residential units in the schemes. So that's the document we have. Is it acceptable to lose residential units for deconversion? Now, for those of you that don't know what deconversion is, it's when you take maybe 2 flats and make it into a larger home and those sorts of things, or to allow the loss of a housing unit where we think at the moment it's substandard accommodation. It doesn't meet the requirements that you would normally look for in accommodation. And I just wanted to pass over to the officer on this, because there has been a change to the core strategy which is being written at the moment.
There has been a change to the core strategy, and it now says that we will permit flats that have been converted in a house, in a traditional house, with a garden, to convert into one family home or 2 family homes, in fact. But what this policy is aimed at is when you have purpose-built flats, and if they come up for some sort of redevelopment, that we don't want to lose any of the units in terms of numbers of units. The exception will be in affordable housing, where sometimes that sort of deconversion is necessary to make homes that are more suitable for the new occupants. So, for example, some of our historic affordable housing blocks may be dominated by small 1-bedroom units which no longer fit the profile of need, and it could be that they would be redeveloped as a mix of accommodation. So, for example, for families, more 2- and 3-bedroom houses. So it wouldn't actually affect affordable homes, but it's so that we can keep the number of units that we have in the market sector, and we're not actually losing accommodation.
So that's the situation at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, as this gentleman said a little while ago, you're never going to solve the problem of the shortage of accommodation. But one very good thing that you should insert in your plan, and it certainly won't solve the problem, but it will go a long way to helping it, and it is for Westminster Council to stop doing what you call 106 agreements with developers, whereby you accept lump sums of cash in lieu of affordable housing from developers when they build properties.
Okay, that's actually a question later in the evening. So you've preempted what we're going to say. We've certainly recorded your view, but if we could stick to the question that we've got, because otherwise we're going to run out of time for the other questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm one of the councillors that represent Harrow Road Ward, one of the areas of deprivation, and we have to understand the deep anger that many residents feel about housing in Westminster. Not all residents, but many residents. To nearly 3,000 families in temporary accommodation. That's a euphemism. It's not temporary accommodation, it's substandard accommodation. And nearly 3,000 nearly 3,000 people in overcrowded accommodation. Families of 4 or 5 kids in 1-bedroom flat. So I know about conversions in Harrow Road because Harrow Road is a street properties ward to Victorian terrace houses where conversions take place. That's where the overcrowding takes place, and that's where the noise pollution takes place, when you have 2 or 3 families in a converted terrace house sharing the same accommodation. And remember what the problem is, and we have the best policy in the world, and one could argue that Westminster does have the best policy in the world, but it is never implemented. Yes. That's the problem. In the last 10 years, the council has allowed developers to buy out 2,000 social housing units.
Everything.
2,000. That would have housed nearly 2/3 of the people living in temporary accommodation. And all that property has gone. The land, valuable land, has gone. We'll never get it back. And when this policy is agreed, and it will be agreed and ratified, you know what happened, and I know what will happen. As soon as a site comes up for redevelopment, developers will talk about unsustainability of social housing on that site, and the council will agree.
Like the one we looked at the other day. You'll be putting rabbit hatches and no windows.
Okay. And in terms of the relationship to deconversion, though, I'm not quite clear. Are you saying that the Victorian houses within Harrow Road should be allowed to convert back to family homes, or are you suggesting that they should never have been allowed to be converted to flats in the first instance? I'm not quite sure.
I'm saying that the 2,000 social housing flats that we've lost because the property developers didn't want to build them, they should have been built, and we wouldn't be here talking about conversion of terrace houses.
Okay.
Answer the question.
Was there any other views in relation to deconversion? Does anyone have a differing view?
Well, as I said, we live the life of it, yeah? Now, when you get your developers, it's like my granddaughter, I could talk about her, but it's not on tonight, right? I've had a niece as well, 11 years, born in this borough and couldn't get accommodation, and I expect my granddaughter to be 7 years, and she's just done 3 years and been moved 8 times. Now, when they took the census, say, when was it, last 10, 15 years ago, we were only having 2 children per person, more or less. Yes? And I was in that census. And you did build properties with 1 bedrooms. And yes, let's give Westminster their view. They did give some of our kids the right to buy in flats so they could get on the ladder. You seem to be going back. Because yes, if you want to convert a 1 bedroom into a 2 bedroom, you then got the mental health person, right? Or the alcoholic. He'll have nowhere to live. So now he is the homeless man again. The mental health man is going to be included in the prisons. And we're going to be more mental health because we haven't got a decent place to live. And it's to do with Westminster City Council. You sold off our land, taxpayers' land, everybody here, you sold it off to the highest bidders.
So are you suggesting that deconversions shouldn't be allowed?
Some of it, yes, because I'd have to be stupid to say no.
Okay.
But remember how you do it. Have some thought at the other end.
So do you think there should be a difference between, say, affordable housing and private housing? So if you have 2 flats, they're market housing, they're not in the affordable housing whatsoever, somebody wants to turn those back into a family home, would you support that option?
Well, no, I can't, because if there's so many people want to live in our borough, let's be fair, and then what happens is Westminster sometimes gives a developer for 1 little square broom closet for a person to live in, and then we have the thing of parking. Remember, I was born in this borough. I've seen it.
So you certainly, deconversions, regardless of the tenure, that they're a real problem because they involve a net loss of housing overall every single year.
Yeah, but houses are a premium, because in the avenues, and I don't know if you know, because you're the lady of the housing, aren't you? When you apply for a place there on the temporary housing, and what you're supposed to have the rights, do you know 240 people apply for that one house, and 5 people are picked? And that is a disgrace of what